Okay, thank you, councillors. First up on the agenda, we have prayer and acknowledgement of country. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. O God, grant that by the knowledge of thy will, all we may resolve shall work together for good. We pray through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay respect to their elders, both past and present, of the Wiradjuri nation, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people from other nations who are present.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Okay, councillors, please note that representatives of the media are present and have been approved to use a recording device to record this meeting for their records if they wish. I also advise that council is now web streaming its standing committees and council meetings live to the internet, and as such, those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements. As the signs indicate upon entry to the council chamber, your attendance at this meeting in the chamber is your acceptance of the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archives of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. So up first, councillors, we have confirmation of the minutes. Can I have a mover of that, please? Moved Councillor Grant, seconded Councillor Lawrence. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? Oh, no, carried. Now we move to leave of absence. We've got one request for a leave of absence tonight in the name of Councillor John Ryan. Can I have a mover of that? Councillor Moore, seconded Councillor Lawrence. Any discussion or debate on that one? No, I put that. All those in favour? Oh, no, carried. Up next we have public forum. We have one registered speaker in public forum tonight, Mr Douglas Pryor. Mr Pryor, if you'd like to approach the microphone, the general rules is that you've got 5 minutes to address the council. Thank you, Mr Pryor.
Thank you to Council for this time to address the matter of CCL 2025 report, Draft Energy Strategy and Implementation Plan 2020 to 2025. The declaration I submitted to address you included an indication that I will speak against this Draft Energy Strategy and Implementation Plan, and that is because I see the report is based on a belief that anthropogenic climate change is the cause of global warming. I'll talk more on that later, but I also understand the need for energy conservation and efficiency, and the need to reduce pollution in the atmosphere, including carbon dioxide. I guess that carbon dioxide in the atmosphere acts as a greenhouse gas at the level of 1/100th of that postulated by some scientists, those advising the main body, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change of the United Nations. In this report, CCL 2025, you are considering a Part 1, a background paper to which, quote, "This section provides the overall context for the Energy Strategy and Implementation Plan and has been developed on behalf of Council by 100% Renewables, an expert energy consultant engaged under the New South Wales Department of Planning, Industry and Environment's, formerly OEH, Sustainable Advantage Program, of which Council is a member." Though I only skimmed through this section, it is hard to access and analyse since it appears only as an image in the PDF of the public accessible business paper of this ordinary council meeting. The council would do well to make material available to be searchable. Back to the report, there are 4 key strategy areas. Key strategy area 1, energy efficiency, of which I agree to the goals and outcomes. Key strategy area 2, renewable energy, of which I can't agree on goals and outcomes, because the rationale is based on a belief system of carbon dioxide causing global warming. I know the globe has been warming in recent decades, but I understand a bigger picture which includes water vapour acting as a greenhouse gas. The temperature of the core of the Earth is very hot, similar to the surface of the Sun. Global cycles such as ocean currents which vary in temperature. The low level of water moisture currently held in soils in continents like Australia. And the effect of the Sun on Earth's climate, which varies over 11 years, plus multi-decade and multi-century cycles. Some of these factors also cool the Earth. Key strategy area number 3, sustainable transport, of which I can see merit in it being sustainable, but the cost to the community, where the average age of vehicles in Australia is 10 years, can't be justified with current technologies and industries. The move away from current energy sources such as petrol and diesel should be paced along with the community. On the subject of transport, particularly the roads made of tar, with tar production being a contributor to carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, if the Council is really looking at the overall amount of energy used and emissions made in resourcing materials in one core activity, I thought this report could have addressed that subject. Key strategy area 4, supporting energy smart communities, is just the spin that the report would like the general community to adopt as the Council promotes this in the next 5 years. So I can only agree to the strategy of energy efficiency being viable. On another subject, a word starting with R that is a favourite of Council's is the case of rubbish. I didn't see this report address in detail the subject of rubbish, though it is mentioned with some case studies of other councils. Some comments and advice to consider, especially when developing a strategy, where are the risks and opportunities? Unfortunately, this report concentrates mostly on 100% renewables. A risk to consider is supply chain, availability of resources. For example, are LED lights readily available due to unforeseen circumstances in source country? Maybe the time frame for some goals will need to be lengthened. An opportunity not to be missed is the development of power sources using fission or fusion. Maybe a hydrogen-boron fusion source of power will be available sooner than expected. Since there's been much chatter around the world about saving it from the impending disaster, there has been much chatter around the world about saving it from an impending disaster. And since this report on the draft energy strategy and implementation plan has been put to be considered by Council, I wonder where councillors stand in relation to climate change. I would like to know where the Dubbo Regional Council stands on this ideology. And in December last year, the subject of climate change was raised in the public square by councillors.
I need to wind you up. You're on to the 5 minutes. Thank you.
It was raised in the public square by Councillor Stephen Lawrence on a Facebook post. Thank you to the councillor for raising the questions in a local context. In the absence so far of any formal motion on the council agenda about climate change based on the Facebook post, I ask this meeting 2 questions. Firstly, is it in the interest of ratepayers for the council to join the Cities Powers Partnership Program? Secondly, is it believed by the council that a climate emergency needs to be declared? Finally, thanks again for your time in considering this address, and I've got copies for especially those questions to be given to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. There's no further speakers from the public gallery, so we'll move on to the next item, which is matters considered by committees. First up, we have CCL 20/16, report of the Development and Environment Committee meeting of the 10th of February 2020. Can I have a mover of that, please? Moved Councillor Moore, seconded Councillor Parker. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? I know carried. Now we move to CCL 20/17, report of the Infrastructure and Livability Committee meeting of the 10th of February. Moved Councillor Moore. A seconder, please. Councillor Diffie. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? I know carried. Now we move to the report of the Culture, Economy and Corporate Committee meeting of the 10th of February 2020. Can I have a mover of that? Moved Councillor Gumley, seconded by Councillor Jones. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? I know carried. Councillors, we move now to reports from staff. CCL 20/19, the December 2019 quarterly budget review statements. Can I have a mover of that, please? Moved Councillor Parker, seconded Councillor Gumley. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? I know carried. Second, we now have CCL 20/20, the determination of councillor representations on the advisory panels for the remainder of the council term. Now we have a motion to start with and then a second one after that, I believe. Is that a recommendation after that, so I'll have a mover of that, please. Councillor Moore. A seconder, Councillor Etheridge. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? I know, carried. Now, as part of that motion, councillors, we now need to determine those councillors on the committee. I have a motion. Councillor Moore.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move CCL 20/20 determination of councillors' representation on advisory panels in the remainder of the council term, that it be resolved by council that councillors Vicky Etheridge, Dane Gumley, Stephen Lawrence, Greg Moore and John Ryan be nominated council representatives on the Dubbo Regional Council Airports panel, that councillors Jane Diffie and Vicky Etheridge be nominated council representatives on the Disability Inclusion Advisory panel, that councillors Vicky Etheridge, Anne Jones, Stephen Lawrence and John Ryan be the nominated council representatives on the Social Justice Advisory panel, that Councillor John Ryan be the council representative on the Street Tree Advisory Advisory panel, that councillors Anne Jones and John Ryan be the council's representatives on the Dubbo Regional Council Solar and Wind Farm Consultative Committee.
Can I have a seconder for that one? Seconded, Councillor Gumley. Any discussion or debate on that? No, I put that. All those in favour? I know, carried. Now, councillors, we move to the next item, CCL 20/21, the update of the Asset Management Strategy of 2020. Can I have a mover of that one, please? Move Councillor Parker, seconded by Councillor Grant. Any discussion on that one at all? No, I put that. All those in favour? I know, carried. Now, CCL 20/22, considerations and calculation of contributions under Council's water and sewerage contributions policy. Can I have a mover of that one, please? Move Councillor Jones. A seconder, Councillor Etheridge. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? I know, carried. Now we have CCL 20/23, D19-568 Part 1 of 2-lot subdivision property, Johnson Street, applicant owner being Dubbo Regional Council. Can I have a mover of that one, please? Move Councillor Grant, seconded Councillor Etheridge. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? I know, carried. Now we move to CCL 20/24, which is road closure and 2-lot subdivision property, part Fitzroy Street, Dubbo, corner of Fitzroy and Johnson Streets. Can I have a mover of that one? Move Councillor Grant, seconded Councillor Etheridge. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? Carried. Now we move to CCL 20/25, the Draft Energy Strategy and Implementation Plan 2020-25. Can I have a mover of that one, please? Move Councillor Lawrence. A seconder, please. Councillor Etheridge. Any discussion or debate on that one? Councillor Lawrence.
Mr Mayor, I would seek to move an amendment to the recommendation, and the amendment would be numbers 1 and 2 as per the recommendation, and then an additional 3, that the Chief Executive Officer report back by the March meeting of Council with the report addressing the process for Council joining the City's Powers Partnership Program and the City Powers Partnership Program pledge that Council will strive to achieve.
So you seek to amend your own motion, Councillor Lawrence?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Can I have a seconder to that amendment? Seconder, Councillor Diffie. Okay. Discussion or debate on the matter?
Thanks, Mr
Lawrence.
Mayor. So, look, as people will appreciate, the amendment would commence the process of Council joining the City Powers Partnership Program, and for the information of people here and people watching, and Mr Pryor also, who spoke in public forum, the City Powers Partnership has been going now for about 2.5 years, and it's become Australia's largest local government climate network. It's made up of over 115 councils from across the country, representing almost 11 million Australians. Some of our local councils in our area are members of it already, including the Bathurst Council, the Parks Council, and I believe the Broken Hill Council is also already a member of it. Local councils who join the partnership have 6 months to make 5 action pledges, and they can be in a range of areas, including the renewable energy area. And look, it seems to me that the renewable energy sector particularly is of great importance to us here in the Dubbo region, and people will probably be aware of the Central West Renewable Energy Zone that the state government and the federal government have been involved in, and will lead to great economic impact on our region, and the advent of many solar and wind farms that will see this region receive billions of dollars in private sector investment, and the construction of a large number of renewable energy farms. And that is something of tremendous significance to us. And the important thing that seems to arise out of the information about the City Powers partnership program is that councils get exclusive access to a comprehensive online knowledge hub and an online tool to help track emissions, energy and cost savings. Councils can team up with other councils that are working on similar projects and share knowledge. Councils can also be connected with their local community energy group and relevant local organisations who can help with implementation of emissions reduction actions and energy efficiency measures and so forth. So look, it just seems to me that it makes a lot of sense that we plug ourselves into this network. Some benefits may flow from it, and it's free, and there's not many things in life that are free, but this, as I understand it, is free. So look, it seems to me to be a positive step consistent with the energy policy for us to start that process of the Chief Executive Officer gathering some information about the City Powers partnership and enabling us to make a decision, I would think, in the March meeting about actually joining it.
Okay, councillors, any further discussion or debate on the matter? Not on the amendment, okay. Well, I'll throw my 2 cents in. Oh, you wish to talk to the amendment? Okay, Councillor Moore.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I agree with the recommendation of council, but I don't agree with the amendment from Councillor Lawrence. One thing that concerns me about this website that the City Powers Partnership, down the bottom it has the Climate Council on it. Anything to do with the Climate Council are activists. They run around spreading untruths. A lot of their policies are far-fetched, and there's no way in the world that I'd like this council to be any part of anything to do with the Climate Council. Another thing that concerns me about their website is it has a donation sector in there as well, where we can, if you'd like, to donate. Now, if this was free, why would we need to donate? I'm not saying that this council has to donate, but I totally disagree with that, because where does that donation go? It doesn't say where the donation goes, who it supports, and as I said before, it's got the Climate Council on the bottom of their website, which I totally disagree with some of the stuff and hypocrisy that they come out with. There's no way in the council that I am going to support joining a group with far-fetched climate ideology like the Climate Council.
More? Any further comment on the amendment? No? Okay, well, I'll throw my 2 cents in. Look, I share a lot of what Councillor Moore has to say. However, I'm happy to support this going through for the one reason that it is about simply getting a report back for the next meeting of Dubbo Regional Council. Now, this is going to enable people like even myself to go away and actually research this a little bit more myself, this organisation, this mob. But look, I do echo Councillor Moore's concerns that it has got a quite extreme activist group as a supporter of it, being the Climate Council. They, just because it says council on it doesn't necessarily mean that they're moderate and they're all sensible thinking. In a lot of ways, they are an extremist organisation when it comes to climate emergency stuff. So, but that being said, this is about getting the information back from council for council to make a very informed decision on this. So I do support that. We've always had this view in the council that any councillor should be entitled to get whatever information he or she thinks is best for the councils, for the other councillors to look at, without actively just rejecting it for the sake of it. So that being the case, I'm quite happy to support this amendment. Any further comments on the amendment? No? I put that. All those in favour? Against? Okay. Now we move on to... that becomes the motion. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yes, thank you. I think that the report is excellent, and I'd like to thank Mr. Wallace and Ms. Jennings. It obviously raises this issue of climate science and climate change, which lots of people have different views about. And Mr. Pryor obviously is a climate sceptic. I don't think he'd complain about that description based on what he just said. Look, I certainly believe strongly in climate science because I tend to believe a scientific consensus, just like if I go to the doctor, in particular to a specialist, and I get diagnosed with a particular illness, I tend to believe the doctor and the specialist. And if I went to 100 doctors and 100 doctors told me the same thing, I probably wouldn't believe a couple of quacks. So, and I'm not referring to Mr. Pryor as a quack, I'm referring to some of the oddbods who get around the internet with science degrees proclaiming their views about climate change that are completely at odds with the scientific consensus. So look, I strongly believe that, strongly support the report. I certainly would think that in some ways the report or this council could go further, and I'm certainly very supportive of this council in due course adopting an emissions reduction target. Look, that is not something that would have comfortably sat in this report because this report is fundamentally about energy use and where energy is derived from, whereas the question of emissions is a broader one. But I certainly flag for the interest of people here and anyone else that I certainly intend in due course to bring motions to council that would seek to commit council to an emissions target so to go further than what is in this report. And I'll keep you waiting, Mr. Mayor, in terms of what the target will be. It will be sensible and prudent in the context of what is an emergency, a national and an international emergency. People will have seen from the report that there's a commitment to a 50% renewable use by 2025. That's good. I'm strongly supportive of this council moving to 100% by 2030, and a large number of councils have made that commitment. And it should be said, these aren't inner city councils necessarily. These aren't councils that are bastions of socialism or radicalism. Many regional councils have taken that step, and that's because to believe in climate science is not to be an extremist, it's actually to be a moderate, it's to be a conservative, because if you go around sprouting that climate science is rubbish and believing the few crackpots on the internet, then you don't deserve the title of conservative or moderate. You are a destructive and a radical person. That is how serious this issue is. So look, in due course, I will bring motions to council to seek to get council to agree to those things. But this policy, insofar as it pertains to energy use, where we derive it from and how we use it, I think it's excellent, and I certainly intend to support it.
Further comment on that one, Councillor Gumley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'm one of those people not deserving of the title of Conservative, according to Councillor Lawrence, and of course the finishing remarks of Councillor Lawrence are typical of the left, in that they want to categorise their opposition into a small box so that anything that they might say can't be trusted or believed by the public, whereas I'm interested in having real, sensible and responsible debates about issues rather than taking the view that I'm right and everyone else who doesn't agree with me therefore must be wrong, which of course is what we've heard in the chamber from Councillor Lawrence. Councillor Lawrence drew an analogy between believing science and believing doctors, and that's nothing but an oversimplification. I believe in science. I trust science. But the real question is whether or not I trust the institutions that tell us what the science is. Just as if I went to my doctor, yes, I might believe a diagnosis that they provide, but if I learnt that my doctor or my specialist happened to be paid by a pharmaceutical company, well then I might start to question precisely what it is that they were telling me. And that, in my opinion, is true of many of the institutions that tell us what the science is that there's always an agenda that they have to push on the basis of where they get their funding from. Councillor Lawrence, of course, mentions in this chamber just a desire to go and have a look at the city's power partnership, and it seems pretty moderate at this point. But, of course, as we've seen in other topics pushed by the left, it starts as a moderate agenda, and then we end up on the very slippery slope of marching further and further towards the left against the best interests of our community. And that is the concern that I have about this motion and the amendment which is now passed as hoped for by Councillor Lawrence. Mr Mayor, when it comes to climate change, I'm more interested in outcomes than symbolic tokenism, and that is precisely what this motion now, with the amendment having passed, is all about. We're looking at joining a group of other councils that have a particular view, effectively for the warm and fuzzy feeling that we might get out of it. There's no concrete outcomes that can be pointed to by Councillor Lawrence. Nobody's told me about what it is that we might achieve that we couldn't otherwise achieve without joining that group of other councils. I'm not interested in helping Councillor Lawrence's mate Albo make his 2050 hopes and dreams seem like that they might actually be achievable. I'm not interested in marching our community another step to the left, gambling with their money when nobody can and nobody has told the people in this chamber what we should expect out of joining this so-called partnership. And indeed, as Councillor Lawrence has now put on the table, his desire to achieve a move to 100% renewables within the next decade. I'm pretty sure that the economics and the science in relation to moving from our baseload power, which we still rely heavily upon, you can drive past as many wind farms and solar farms as you like, but the reality is, without coal-fired power, we can't turn the lights on at night time. I'm not going to move our community further in the direction that Councillor Lawrence wishes to take, and I encourage all of the other councillors to adopt the same attitude.
Further comment? Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, yeah, it was very interesting to hear the left and the right, and whatever you want to call them. So I think I'll stick with the right. I just happened to pick up an article out of the paper a couple of weeks ago, and I'll read it to you. So it's good on you, ScoMo, for continuing your common sense stand against the climate change alarmists on which you won the 2019 election. So I think you're creating alarm. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments at all?
If there's no other contributions, I'd take a right reply.
You've already actually spoken, Councillor Lawrence, for your 5 minutes, so...
Yeah, it's my understanding
You do get a right of reply, yes, okay. Absolutely. Is there any other further comments on that one at all? Okay, I'll throw my 2 cents in first. Look, I echo a lot of what Councillor Gumley had to say when it comes to this debate. Whilst I differ slightly in going to the investigation stage of investigating who this group is and voting to allow for an investigation for councillors to get back, I have to admit I am quite alarmed myself that we could potentially have a councillor here advocating that we go to 100% renewables within 10 years. Now that is utterly, utterly unachievable. That would have to be one of the most loopiest statements that I've ever come across in this chamber, in 20 years in this chamber. The idea that we could totally ignore conventional baseload power, conventional coal power, things like that, within a 10-year period is verging on the absurd. Look, it says to me that we're going down the road of potentially being more about tokenism than about sensible, realistic outcomes. If we want to start throwing silly figures around that we're going to be at 100% renewables within a period of 10 years, and we're looking at places like even the Lithgow coal-fired power station being totally shut down and our coal industry totally shut down, and we're totally at this idea that we're at 100% renewables within 10 years is achievable, you've got rocks in your head, honestly. It's just not going to happen, no matter how right or how wrong the argument of climate change is. There is no way this council can achieve 100% renewables within 10 years. Just not achievable. So that, in my mind, puts it into the basket of being tokenism. So that's my 2 cents on that one. Councillor Lawrence.
There is something quite alarming about hearing the certainty with which a number of councillors have essentially, to varying degrees, put a proposition of scepticism about climate science. It's very difficult to discern from anything that has been said any real understanding of the issues, particularly of climate science. I find that concerning. Look, I don't profess to be an expert myself, but I'm comforted by the fact that there's a scientific consensus in favour of what I'm saying. Look, the only solace that I really take in the circumstances is that at every level of government, the bureaucracy, the staff, whatever, the views that have been expressed by Councillor Gumley and Councillor Moore and you, Mr Mayor, to an extent, are being worked around. These views are really intellectually the views of cavemen, and intelligent bureaucrats are working around them, and your views really are fit for the dustbin of history. That's where they will end up and reside, because fortunately responsible people continue to advise government and continue to run governments at different levels. And guess what? They believe in climate science. And even the ones at a federal level who might signal in a different way to appeal to ignorant constituencies, they actually believe it too. And that's why Australia, as a nation, through local, state and federal governments, is doing its bit to try to avoid what is a catastrophe. And that will happen, I am very confident, notwithstanding the sort of ridiculous views that we have heard expressed here tonight. So that is really my only solace tonight, having heard all of this.
So with Councillor Lawrence having his right of reply, there's no further comments on this. I put the motion of Councillor Lawrence's. All those in favour? All those against? 1, 2, 3, 4. Declare the motion carried. So we now move on, councillors, to section CCL 20/26, the naming of thoroughfare for the new subdivision of Hawthorn Street, Dubbo. Can I have a mover of that, please? Move Councillor Jones, seconded Councillor Parker. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? Carried. Now we have CCL 20/27, the naming of thoroughfare for a new subdivision off Rosedale Road. Can I have a mover of that one? Moved Councillor Jones, seconded Councillor Gumley. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? Okay, carried. Now we move into councillors. The next section is CCL 20/28, which is comments and matters of urgency. This week we'll start with Councillor Diffie.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to bring to everyone's attention that on Saturday night the Dubbo Show Society hosted the Zone 6 Showgirl Finals here in Dubbo. So there was 21 show societies converged on the city with almost 250 people at the RSL auditorium for the Zone 6 finals. Our local government area had Meg Smith from Wellington representing her Wellington Show Society and Tyler Comerford representing the Dubbo Show Society. Unfortunately, neither of the girls made it through. They select 3 from Zone 6 to go through to the Royal Easter for the land showgirl competition, but they did select 3 girls from Blaney and Cowra and Bathurst made it through to the Royal Easter. So congratulations to those girls, but Meg and Tyler both did an amazing job representing our local government area and Wellington and Dubbo Show Societies. I had the pleasure of emceeing the night and doing the interviews on stage, and I can tell you it's very different from when I was an entrant 20 years ago. There were some outstanding girls there studying vet science and biology, physiotherapists, solicitors. So it was a pleasure to meet such an incredible bunch of girls and to see so many show societies supporting the Zone 6 finals when you consider that there is drought and economic hardship hitting those local areas. So congratulations to the Dubbo Show Society on a wonderful event, and to Meg and to Tyler for a wonderful job.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just wanted to mention that we do have the Wellington Vintage Fair this weekend, so make sure that everyone gets down there and has a look and checks it out.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'd just like to reflect back on Australia Day nomination and awards, and thank those all who took time to nominate a person, and of course congratulate those who all received an award. Commiserations to those who were nominated, but also they should be proud of the fact that they were nominated. Look, being on the panel for reviewing all nominations, it was pleasing to see the number that were nominated by Dubbo residents. However, on the flip side, the lack of nominations from Wellington was really noted, and just going forward, I hope residents of Wellington start looking at possible nominations for next year. Thank you.
I'd like to raise a matter of urgency, certainly a matter that I think is urgent, and that concerns our representation on the Taronga Zoo Board. As people will be aware, Council nominates under the Act a position on that board, and I can't remember the exact date, but it was very shortly after we all came onto Council some years ago that we chose you, Mr Mayor, to be our nominee, and nothing has happened since. And I think we're now in a situation where going into a 3rd year, we don't have representation on that board. There is another Dubbo person on it by virtue of a different nomination process, but we as Council don't have a person on it. And Mr Mayor, this is your responsibility as Mayor to take forward. You aren't just the nominee, you are also the head of Council, and we now go into, as I recall it, a 3rd year. And look, it is urgent. It's a very important institution, and our representation on it is important. It's important that we have a voice at board meetings and someone in a position to make decisions there on the spot. Mr Mayor, I don't know whether this speaks to your relationship with the state government or not, but in my view, this is urgent. It's a matter that should come back to council soon, and if we need to put up a different nominee, then that should occur. So look, I just wanted to put it on the record as an issue of urgency, an issue of concern. All councillors no doubt will reflect upon it, but it's certainly my view that if it's not resolved by the next council meeting, that we should institute whatever processes we have to do to bring it back to council and perhaps choose a new nominee.
Councillor Lawrence, just on that case, yes, I have made various representations. There are 2 nominees from Dubbo Regional Council that have gone to the state government, that being myself and Councillor Etheridge. At this stage, despite the promises of various ministers, despite the promises of even the local member, I still have not received word that it has gone to, that it's actually been approved. Now, look, no point just reflecting on it and pointing to being it's my job to do it. The reality is Dubbo Regional Council has been missing out on its rightful spot on the Taronga Conservation Society board for a number of years now, and that is an absolute blight on the state government, frankly, for not getting on with the job and putting that and rectifying it. The dark cloud that has hung around Talbragar Street and that green building for a number of years is clearly still there. Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As everyone knows, that the last several months it has been a very hectic time with bushfires. I'd like to make particular mention for the brave men and women that came from Dubbo and surrounding areas that went to the coast and helped fight these fires. Not only is it the Rural Fire Service that have done an exceptional job in protecting life and infrastructure in those areas, but they were working 12 to 16 hours a day, sleeping on the side of the road, and they need gratitude to and their thanks for making it probably a lot easier for the other firefighters down in those areas, but the residents and everyone else that's impacted. Not only that, our local emergency services were on 24-hour standby. We did have a bushfire out in the Goonoo State Forest. That was concerning. That was light for several weeks. And they need to be thanked as well for their contributions to not only making that area safe, but bringing that under control. Thankfully, we weren't damaged by too much in the way of fire, but without our exceptional volunteers from the Rural Fire Service and our dedicated men and women of the emergency services of this state, and particularly around Dubbo and in our region, then a lot of things could have been worse. So I congratulate them and I thank them for their outstanding efforts that they did and the effort that they put in. And you could see some of the comments on Facebook and so on that the people that I am friends with and the hard work and dedication that they put in was absolutely phenomenal, and they need to be congratulated for that. Just moving off that, Mr Mayor, one thing that concerns me greatly lately is our closure of our tips in Yamundry and Ballymore and so on, and Geary being selected times. The more and more that I drive through country roads, the more and more rubbish now I'm seeing being dumped on the side of the road due to the closure of those tips. We need to sort of bring this under control and have a think tank about that. I know I'm continually, even the recycle bins at Wongarbin have been taken away. They have now been moved to Ballymore, and people are telling me that they can't go and take recycling over there because they're getting turned away. Whether people are now getting frustrated and just losing their mind and throwing stuff on the side of the road, which is unfortunate, which has cost us a lot more money to pick up in the long run, and what it will to have these tips open to more conclusive times for people to use them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Look, I certainly echo what you say when it comes to the village tips, and I'd certainly invite you to put a notice of motion that we start that process of a review. I think I don't think we've got it right. I really don't. It's something that as John, we've copped a lot of criticism for, and people are rightfully concerned around the villages right across the local government area. And I think we do need to review that sooner rather than later. So I certainly welcome a notice of motion from you, Councillor Moore, to have that one done. Thank you. That concludes questions and comments, and matters of urgency. We now move on, councillors, to Committee of the Whole, which is deemed to be confidential. Can I have a mover of that one, please? Councillor Jones, seconded Councillor Etheridge. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? No, carried. So, members of the public and media, I'd like to thank you for your attendance at tonight's meeting of Dubbo Regional Council. Now, we will reopen the doors at the end of our deliberations for the actual outcome of what the discussion is, but until then, the meeting is closed to the public. Thank you. All right, councillors, we'll now move on. We do have a report of the Committee of the Whole. Can I have that report read back to Council, please?
1, that council sell to Dubbo Christian School 2.67205 hectares of vacant Keswick land adjoining the school as identified as part lot 339 DP 1241303 for $791,340 inclusive of GST. 2, that council provide 3 years vendor finance with a minimum repayment by the school of $260,000 inclusive of GST per annum, and the monthly outstanding loan balance accrue interest at 3% per annum. 3, that council be responsible for development approval and plan registration of the area being purchased by Dubbo Christian School. 4, that all documentation in relation to this matter be executed under power of attorney. 5, that the documents and considerations in regard to this matter remain confidential to council.
Okay, can I have a mover of that motion? Move Councillor Etheridge, second Councillor Moore. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No, I put that. All those in favour? No, carried. Councillors and public, that does conclude our monthly February meeting of Dubbo Regional Council. Thank you for your attendance. And if the streaming can be turned off.